This is Duke University.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Welcome to the 13th annual Duke Startup Challenge. My name is Olgun Kukrar, and I'm almost a graduate of the Fuqua School of Business.
And I'm Chris Radford, a senior and almost graduate of the Pratt School of Engineering. And we have the honor of serving as this year's Startup Challenge co-presidents.
We have a great show for you guys tonight. We're going to hear elevator pitches from our semifinalists. We're going to have a great keynote speech. And also, we're going to hear investor pitches from the 3 finalists, one of whom is going to walk off the stage with $50,000 grand prize. So, before we get to the thick of things, I'll let Chris give us an agenda.
Thank you, Olgun. So, we're starting tonight off in style with elevator pitches from our 5 semifinalists. After that, we're going to hear a keynote speech from our keynote speaker, Rich Lee, an award-winning entrepreneur. After that, we're going to hear pitches from our 3 finalist teams, followed by a chance for you, the audience, to have your voice heard. We're going to have votes from both our judges and our audience. And finally, once these votes are tallied, we're going to announce our $50,000 grand prize winner.
Right. So I actually would like to give you guys a glimpse of how these teams made it here today. And we had an amazing participation with 118 teams competing in the Startup Challenge this year. And Duke was very well represented, with Trinity and Fuqua taking the lead. Woo! Come on, Fuqua!
We were third. So, each of these 118 teams competed in one of 5 functional tracks, listed behind me in blue. In addition, many of these teams also qualified for one of our 3 special interest tracks when they were led by an undergraduate, a woman, or had a specific focus on the Chinese market. In addition, we selected one People's Choice winner through our Facebook poll. Let's hear it for, after 2 rounds of judging, we selected these semifinalists. Let's give a round of applause for these amazing entrepreneurs.
Next, our pool of judges selected our 3 finalists who are going to compete here today with their investor pitches for the $50,000. And they are Craniovation, who advanced through the healthcare and life sciences track, Zam Solar, who advanced through the social enterprises track, and Nanalie, who took the lead in both the women-led and undergraduate-led special interest tracks. Now, as we said before, we're going to hear a 1-minute elevator pitch from our 5 semifinalists. And then we're going to hear our 3 finalists give us 8-minute investor pitches and go through a 7-minute live Q&A with our judges. Our judges' scores are going to count for 80% of the final tally. And your votes are going to count for the remaining 20%. So be ready during the show, and you're going to get your voices heard. And now, without further ado,
let's begin.
Our 5 semifinalists. First up is our People's Choice winner, Alma Matters. You guys know how to do that? Yeah.
Or you can,
No.
Mike's on.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Robert Ravanchanas, and this is my partner Tyler Nisanoff, and we'll be presenting Alma Matters today.
I should probably stand in front of you. I have to stand in front of you because I'm not.
Technology is being wasted. While the internet has fostered meaningful communities, what they haven't done is made them have a change. Slide. So, at Duke, we have many students who can inspire each other, show each other their passion, but we haven't been able to take advantage of the alumni networks. So what our website is going to do is it's going to provide each student with a page to show off all of their accomplishments that they're doing so that alumni can engage and other students can be inspired by what they're doing. We will be promoting internships, student mentorships, and sharing of ideas. And that's what we're going to do, make the alma mater matter.
Thank you, Alma Mater. Thank you, Alma Matters. Next up is Edge Athletics.
And forward, backward.
Here you are. If they're going to clap at the end of each presentation, is it okay if I just introduce? Okay. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kenny Asakwe, and I'm with Edge Athletics. In 1996, Under Armour gave athletes an edge by providing them with moisture-sticking apparel that allowed them to be lighter and faster during actual competition. But now, Edge Athletics is yet changing the game by doing something a little bit different. We're actually providing, with our proprietary apparel, resistance training. Nice shot. Instead of making athletes lighter and faster, what we're actually doing during competition, our apparel, which is made of heavy neoprene as well as iron sand, what we're able to do is we're able to provide resistance training doing sport-specific training. With our particular apparel, athletes are able to gain strength, speed, as well as agility, all in less time. During our startup and actually helping to develop this business, we've been able to develop a prototype, which is Rashida's wearing right now, and as well as developed a relationship with a manufacturer in China. And as well, we're in the process of applying for intellectual property right now for our particular product. In the end, we feel that this is a great product that we think, yeah, I actually get a chance to feel it as well. To get a chance to feel it. And we believe that's a very great
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our IT Media Track winner, Radius.
Yep, go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm David with Radius. Radius's goal is to produce a platform that will provide users with the most relevant, media-rich content wherever they go. The model that we're using is based around something similar to FM radio, where everywhere you have these broadcast towers that they're virtual, they're created by Radius users, and they broadcast whatever content the creator of these beacons wishes to transmit. Meanwhile, whenever a Radius user pulls out their smartphone, they get to see all of the content that's being transmitted by nearby beacons that's filtered and prioritized based on the interests of that user, based on who they're connected with in the Radius network. And basically our goal is to provide a rich multimedia digital layer on top of the physical layer and tether that to real locations in the physical world. And yeah, that's Radius.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Radius. Olga's going to introduce you.
In order to call the winner of the Clean Energy Track, I'd like to invite Mr. Richard Newell, who is the director of Duke's University-wide Energy Initiative and a faculty at the Nicholas School of the Environment.
Thanks so much. I'm thrilled to be awarding the Clean Energy Track Prize for the first time. The Duke University Energy Initiative is a university-wide collaboration focused on problem-solving approaches to addressing some of the world's greatest energy challenges related to the economy, the environment, and security. So I'm really thrilled to introduce SAFE TNA.
I'm Justine Chow, CEO of SafeTNA. You may have heard of the issue of hydraulic fracturing, which is a controversial natural gas extraction technique that may or may not be contaminating groundwater. Either way, it's causing a lot of worry. So say you're a company that wants to demonstrate that you're doing everything possible to not contaminate groundwater. You'd use SafeTNA tracers in your frac fluid and show that you're not contaminating the water. Or if you are, that you can trace exactly where the contamination is coming from. Hydraulic fracturing is a rapidly growing market, and some say that it's the key to America's energy future. We believe that we can make this transition a lot smoother while also producing a profitable business. We have expertise from law, business, environmental science, and engineering, and we believe that SafeTNA would be the key to making trust between the energy industry and concerned communities possible. Thank you.
And now it's time for our last elevator pitch of the evening. Please welcome Rainbow.
So China is facing a huge supply shortage in its elderly home care. On the demand side, the majority of the aging population want to stay at home. However, the generation after one-child policy just cannot take care of the parents anymore. On the other hand, there's no established professional healthcare provider in the market yet. To address this issue, Rainbow will send our trained and certified nursing staff to provide a professional health care in the comfort of the elder's home. And in our internal projection, our company value will reach $50 million in year 5.
Our competitive advantage lies in a unique certification. We are nearing a partnership agreement with an award-winning US home healthcare agency to transfer their best practices to China. In addition, we also possess expertise in Chinese traditional medicine as well as 5-star service training. This will allow us to have a program that is world-class yet localized. We have a great team that includes owner of China Private Hospital Group, Shanghai Congressman, as well as strategy consultants to change our vision into a reality. Thank you very much.
Tonight, we're honored to have Mr. Rich Lee, both as a judge and as our keynote speaker. Rich is a seasoned entrepreneur, and a seasoned and a passionate entrepreneur. He has led several information technology services companies over his 23-year career. Most recently, Rich was founder and CEO of Hosted Solutions, which was acquired by Abry Partners in 2008 for $144 million, resulting in an 84x return for their investors. Rich led Abry-backed Hosted for 2 more years in their most recent sale in December 2010 to Windstream in an all-cash $310 million transaction. Additionally, Rich has led Hosted Solutions to a variety of industry accolades, including 5 consecutive Triangle Business Journal Fast 50 awards, and he has also won the Triangle Business Leaders Impact Entrepreneurs Award in 2008. Rich has also won the prestigious Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year in Technology in 2009. Maybe most importantly, Rich is also the parent of a current Duke student. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming Mr. Rich Lee. Okay.
All right, thank you, Olgan. Hi, I'm Rich Lee, founder and former CEO of Hosted Solutions. I want to tell you a quick story about Olgan tonight. We were up in the judge's room chambers before, and he said, hey, we're going to make this kind of like an American Idol event. And then he actually said, and I'm more handsome than Ryan Seacrest. So let's give it up for Olgun and his handsomeness. This is my second year of judging, and I can't tell you how impressed I've been in the quality of the presentations I've seen. I'd also like to give a quick round of applause to Howie Ree, Olgun, and Chris for all the work and hard effort they put into putting this event on. So everybody, please give these three. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and these guys are really humping it to try and make events like this happen. I've also got a daughter who's a sophomore here at Duke, who I could not be more proud of. I'd also like to thank all the sponsors for this event, and I'd be remiss without mentioning some of the entrepreneurship that's going on right in our backyard. Jess Lipson, please stand up. You just had a share file, a huge exit to Citrix Systems recently. Jess is from Raleigh, North Carolina, is a Duke grad, and built a great company here. So everybody give Jess a round of applause. So it just goes to show there's a lot of good stuff that's going on in this RTP market. Now the title of my speech is An Entrepreneur's Insight. I've had a pretty incredible 23-year journey in the technology sector. And today, I'm going to focus most of my speech on hosted solutions and how I was able to take a bankrupt company with a total of $1.5 million equity investment to a $144 million cash transaction to a Boston-based private equity firm by the name of Abry Partners. And then a short 2 years later, I led Abry-backed hosted solutions in a $310 million all-cash transaction to Windstream, a publicly traded S&P 500 company. Notice how I mentioned all cash in these transactions. I'll discuss later in this presentation why cash is always king. In this presentation, I'm going to discuss some of the keys to my success, my history, a focus around the actual acquisition with some financial details, and then I'm going to provide a little clarity at the end. As I look back on my career, I keep coming back to 4 key traits that I attribute my success in building businesses. Those are vision, courage, focus, and a little financial savvy thrown on top. All right. So Howie's only given me about 20 to 25 minutes in this keynote to cover my illustrious 23-year career, but I've been fascinated with computers and technology ever since I graduated from Auburn University. Can I get a War Eagle, anyone? War Eagle. There we go. Oh, come on now. Howie, get him out of here. Jeez. From 1987 to 1996, I worked for a computer company. This gave me the knowledge, experience, and confidence to branch out on my own. In 1996, this little thing called the internet was just getting started, and I decided I wanted to be a part of it. With nothing more than a few modems, a T1 line, I started MPINet. MPINet was basically a mini America Online. We sold dial-up, DSL, shared email accounts, and shared hosting services to small and mid-sized businesses as well as consumers across the I-4 corridor in Central Florida. Orlando was our headquarters. We quickly grew to become the largest privately held ISP in Florida. 1999 was a key moment in my life. I was approached by a gentleman named Peter Hopper, who told me he was interested in buying my company. And in early 1999, I sold my company for $10 million cash to Peter, who started a private equity-backed roll-up by the name of Durham Communications. Pete was a Wall Street banker who had raised over $70 million in equity and $100 million in debt to buy a bunch of regional internet service providers, much like MPINet. Peter became my mentor, and I can't begin to tell you how instrumental he has been in my success. Now, over the next 12 months, Get this, we bought 44 companies, some for cash, some for stock. Then April 2000 came, and I know a lot of y'all don't remember what was going on in April of 2000. I know a lot of the judges do. I like to say NASDAQ went from 5,000 to 1,000 overnight. This left Duro overexposed and out ahead of its ski tips. Bad thing for Duro, but a great lesson learned for me about taking on too much too fast. Another lesson learned, many of my friends whose companies we bought wanted to take stock in Duro instead of cash, and they were basically wiped out overnight. I left Duro in late 2000, and due to all the connections I'd made in the M&A sector from doing all these acquisitions, I hired an investment bank to scour the country looking for data centers that had fallen on hard times. I felt like data centers were the next big trend that was happening in the sector. Companies were going to need to outsource their mission-critical data to data center providers. Now, what is a data center? You might have seen the picture of me standing in front of a bunch of racks when Handsome Olgan introduced himself to me. But a data center is basically a facility used to house large server farms, telecom gear, storage systems, and other components. Data centers have redundant power, redundant cooling, redundant IP connectivity, environmental controls, and security devices. I was appointed to Cary, North Carolina, right here in our backyard, and did initial due diligence on a firm named Utenzi, which was in bankruptcy. In June of 2001, I acquired Utenzi for $375,000, raised $1.5 million of equity capital, mostly from myself and a few other tight-knit investors like Peter Hopper, who I previously discussed was one of my mentors. Hosted Solutions was born. So now I'm the proud owner of a bankrupt technology firm in the worst technology holocaust and one of the worst recessions ever. People thought I was an idiot. Now this is June of 2001. Then September 11th came. And I thought I was an idiot. But let's take a look at this acquisition from a new perspective. To build this data center, I acquired for $375,000, would have cost me 2 years of time and over $7 million of CapEx. I would have had 0 customers, 0 revenue, and been burning $150,000 a month to start this thing up. So from my perspective, I have a fully functioning data center for $375,000. I acquired about $750,000, which is about $60,000 a month in recurring revenue, but we're still burning about $80,000 a month. But I'm in the game. Even though I have a strong technology background, I knew that any company I would ever lead would be a technology company that was focused on real brick and mortar practices. Real customers, real revenue, real profits, real fundamentals. The kind of company that could prosper in good times and in bad. My vision was to provide enterprise hosting, managed services, storage, backup, and networking services to clients in the RTP market. Most everyone these days has heard of cloud computing. Believe it or not, Hosted Solutions had been offering these type of services for 10 years now. We were going to be an inch wide and a mile deep in this market and laser focused on being the best provider in the RTP market. We felt like we could do $5,000 to $10,000 of recurring revenue and get to a cash flow neutral position within 12 to 18 months. We did just that. We got to cash flow positive by late 2002. I can't tell you how important this is for any business to become cash flow positive. I can promise you I could sleep a little bit better at night. Some of my proudest moments came from those pretty dark days. I remember going to meet prior Utenzi customers who were forced to leave Utenzi due to the bankruptcy. These customers told us they would never come back to our new firm. We told them we're going to keep contacting them. We would earn our stripes in this marketplace, and eventually over 20 of those customers that left Utenzi came back to Hosted Solutions. What's the moral of the story? You have to persevere. Add customers one at a time. Do what you say you're going to do, and good things will happen. I could also now start to expand my vision, which was to enter new markets, but not Duro style. We were going to take baby steps. One market every 24 months or so, and only as we got a prior market to cash flow positive. So I entered Charlotte in 2003 and proceeded to get that market to cash flow positive within 14 months. Our next market we entered, we came back to Raleigh due to our Cary data center being almost full with customers and no contiguous space to expand. I was able to buy a competitor for under $1 million. By this time, we'd established ourselves and had set up a credit facility with a regional bank that gave us a $3 million credit facility. We threw $500,000 on our bank facility and got the seller to finance the rest of the $500,000 purchase price over 24 months at a very modest interest rate. The key to using debt and seller financing is we didn't have to raise more equity, which would have been dilutive to the shareholders. Around 2006, we had what I like to refer to as the flywheel effect. When you start pushing a 10-ton metal flywheel, it takes lots of effort to make that single revolution, but less for the next 3. Momentum will start to carry the wheel forward itself. Same is true as in business. It's tough and slow to build momentum and inertia. Before long, it starts spinning under its own force. After a while, multiple revolutions will create evolution. Now, we spent the first 5 years turning the flywheel, had signed up hundreds of happy clients in 3 data centers, and then we really started to hit our stride. Data centers were starting to go from the outhouse to the penthouse. SaaS companies were exploding all over the place, like ShareFile, companies that did CRM, gaming, social media. Everybody was moving to the web. It was actually a great time to be in the sector now. And they all required data centers, like hosted solution, to host their server farms and mission-critical applications. ShareFile was one of those customers. We moved into Boston with an acquisition in 2006, and that was our first out-of-state expansion. Around 2007, investment bankers and private equity firms started to really take notice of data centers, and the multiples of publicly traded data center firms had started to expand. Private equity firms love recurring revenue. They love high barriers to entry, they love low churn, and they love lots of diversified, happy customers. It's a very sticky business. We took hosted solutions out with a book in 2007, and I interviewed multiple PE firms. And in 2008, I selected Abry Partners in a $144 million cash transaction. This was over an 85 times return in 7 short years. Now, why private equity? What was I thinking at the time? It's pretty simple. I wanted to find a financial sponsor that would let me take chips off the table and yet continue to operate the firm due to what I felt was going to continually be explosive growth in this sector. Why did I sell again? When you have $1.5 million of equity in your firm and somebody comes to you with a $144 million offer, it's not about IRR. Everybody studies IRR, everybody studies multiples. This is about absolute dollars. This is about securing generational wealth for myself and my family. I took chips off the table to secure my financial future. Let's get into the guts and the details of the acquisition. So here we have the purchase of hosted, $144 million purchase price. At the time, we were doing $14 million of EBITDA. EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. In short words, it's the kind of the cash flow the company's generating. So we sold for a 10.28 multiple of LQA EBITDA. LQA means last quarter annualized. That's how our firms were valued at the time. Now, I'd met with many private equity firms over the prior 8 years, and I'd always say, when somebody comes to me with a 10 times number, I'll talk to you. 2003, 2004, 2005, 2008, a lot of them were coming at 6, 7, 8 times number. I knew my business was worth 10 times. So Abry financed the purchase with $75 million of debt, or 5.5 times the cash flow they borrowed. Senior equity, $15 million, or 1.07 times EBITDA, and they only had to solve for equity of $54 million, of which they contributed $40 million, and Hosted Solutions shareholders, me and a couple other people, rolled forward $14 million. So I kept chips in the game. You can see a little bit on the Class B shares and Class C shares, so the 3 class shares of stock. Fast forward 2 years later, sale of Hosted, $310 million. In 2 short years, I'd been able to grow the firm from $14 million of EBITDA to $27 million of EBITDA. We doubled our cash flow in 2 short years. We got approached by a firm named Windstream, $4 billion publicly traded firm, a spinoff of Alltel Wireless, who approached us with a $310 million all-cash offer. And I got to give it to my guys up at Abry. When they told me about the offer, and we'd met with Windstream, they said, Rich, this is your decision. We were about 2.5 years into a 5-year fund. We had tried to buy one of our largest competitors by the name of Peak 10, who was a local provider, who was also being sold around that time frame. We came up $5 million short in the purchase price. When somebody comes to you with a $310 million cash offer, and we're 2.5 years into a 5-year fund, is something that you've really got to consider. So knowing that in order to continue to grow, we were going to have to go and do an acquisition in a new market, which was going to take me time, most likely take a step back as far as cash flow, and I thought that would be a little bit risky. So I told Abry I was on board, and rarely do you get a chance when you're selling your firm to a larger publicly traded firm, rarely do you get a chance to exit completely and walk away from the business. They liked me, they wanted me to stay, but they really liked my COO also, and they said, one of you has to stay. And I told my COO, Kip Turco, Kip, you're staying. So long story short, simply put, for every $1 million of EBITDA growth, the shareholders got to participate in $11.4 million of returns that the banks didn't. Let me add a little bit of clarity to some of the 4 key traits of my success. Vision, anticipate where the ball is going to be. I started an ISP at the right time. I started a data center, probably 4 years too early, but I had a huge cost to capital advantage. SaaS, big data, mobile, cloud, alternative energy, it's not too late. Invest and operate in sectors with tailwinds. Like I said, I had 4 years of headwinds at Hosted. It's a lot harder to be an operator and be a genius when you got headwinds in your face versus when you got tailwinds at your back. Vision. I talk about vision. Vision's overrated without execution. Elbow grease, one customer at a time, laser focus, execute. Teams with the clearest sense of vision and impact win. Get great people on your bus and get the bad apples off your bus. Bad apples, bad employees are a disease and they're incurable. Courage. Have courage in your convictions. If you're going to start up a business and you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got no time for doom and gloomers. Get them out of your life. I'm going to talk about something that may rub people a little bit the wrong way here, but as a service provider, we had to really protect our network, our infrastructure. We had hundreds of customers that were hosting applications with us. I call accounts onions and orchids at times. Onion accounts basically are bad accounts. They're late payers, they're resource hogs, they can't manage their infrastructure, and you're losing money on them. A lot of times they're hostile customers. You got to get rid of them. Orchid accounts are great customers that manage their infrastructure, they know what they're doing, and they're a pleasure to do business with. You fight for your life to keep the orchids. Have courage to make decisions. Size is the enemy of speed. Launch, listen, learn, then relaunch. I'm going to explain a little story of what I like to call the hedgehog versus the fox. The fox is smart and cunning. but gets caught up in lots of details, becoming misdirected and chasing his own tail. Hedgehogs do one thing and one thing well: they eat. The best CEOs of all time are hedgehogs. All great hedgehogs have three common traits. They're passionate about what they believe in, they recognize they're genetically encoded for their chosen field of endeavor, and they really love what they do, and somebody will pay them for what they love to do. And next, my final slide. I want everybody to take time to do this every day. Take time to dream. Thank you.
Rich, thank you for that excellent presentation. Allow us to present you with a token of our appreciation. Let's hear it again for Rich Lee, guys.
Well, it is now time for the investor pitches. Now, before we start the investor pitches, if we can have our judges on the stage.
We'd like to welcome Tom McMurray, Jesse Lipson, Jack Egan, Rich Lee, Michael Noel, Brooks Bell, Melissa Bernstein, Reed Lewis, Kathy Macy, and Karen Levert. Finally, we're also joined remotely by Ustream by Zaray Chen and Renee Hartman. Let's give a round of applause for our judges.
So once again, this is going to be an 8-minute elevator investor pitch, followed by a 7-minute Q&A with the judges. First up, in alphabetical order, is Craniovation.
This is a typical neurosurgical ICU, not unlike the ones we have here at Duke. I'd like to start off tonight with a scenario. We had a patient, her name was Mary. She was rushed to the hospital emergently after her husband found her unresponsive. She had bleeding on the brain caused by a brain aneurysm. She had emergency brain surgery that night and was one of the lucky ones that survived. However, for the 2 months after, we just couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. Turns out she passed away 2 months later from a preventable cause. Turns out she had further bleeding on the brain, which we just could not diagnose with today's technology, and this was preventable. In the next following slides, I'll show you why. We are Craniovation, and we offer a novel brain aneurysm clip that allows clear imaging of CT and MRI scans. Bleeding on the brain or subarachnoid hemorrhage is a very common and severe problem. The most common cause of the subarachnoid hemorrhage are cerebral aneurysms. 6% of Americans harbor these ticking time bombs. Current treatments are split between aneurysm clip ligation, which involves open brain surgery to place a titanium clip across the neck of the aneurysm, and aneurysm coiling, which involves placing a platinum coil through the femoral artery into the aneurysm. Our innovation focuses on the aneurysm clip market. Here's the clinical problem. Metal aneurysm clips cause severe artifact on CT and MRI scan. As you can see on that left film, which is a CT scan of the brain, basically a picture of the brain, there's blood around the clip. We just can't see it in today's imaging on the right. Again, this is what you should see. This is what you do see. Here's another image, a stroke, an acute stroke, common in society. This is what you should see. This is what you do see. If a patient has an aneurysm and bleeding on the brain and is lucky enough to survive, they undergo surgical aneurysm clip ligation, as we talked about before. Complications develop as they do in 40% of this patient population. A doctor wants to get an MRI and a CT scan. What do you do next? CT and MRI scans are the standard, but they're not as useful. So neurosurgeons have to go to invasive and expensive ancillary tests and still have no diagnosis. With our solution, a zero artifact clip, we can create a completely clear CT and MRI scan leading to accurate diagnosis. Here's our solution. A zero artifact aneurysm clip not made from metal, which is the industry standard, but made from a very strong plastic known as polyether ether ketone. This is a biocompatible substance and already common in medical implants, including already in the brain and deep brain stimulation, in the spine, and various orthopedic implants. Here's a crux. Why has this not been done? And this is why. The clip industry is incredibly conservative. Most clips are handmade in Germany and Japan already. The industry decided that we have to move towards improved images, and they went from steel to titanium, but this still causes artifact. Industry-wide paradigm is to use a torsional spring. Here's the engineering problem. You can't make a torsional spring with plastic. Here's our solution, a flexural clip design, what we call spring flexure. It uses the compliance of the beams to essentially act as the springs. This is our patented technology. Several permutations have been patent protected, and here are two of them. Here's an example of two of our earlier designs, and these are made with stereolithography. These are essentially larger, weaker representations of two of our earlier patent-protected designs. The one in the middle is a current aneurysm clip. Preliminary calculations show that we can emulate the strength of titanium clips with our peak, and this is key. Here's our market, 40 million. We're not hiding or running from the fact that this is a small market, but it leads to a couple of things. Less competition from some of the big players in the game. With only $60,000, we can have a proven, tested device. This leads to a strong return for our investors, and this is a platform technology. As imaging is increasingly becoming the standard of care in medicine today, artifact is going to be a huge problem in the next 10 and 20 years. In a potential sales scenario, within 5 years, we hope to capture 15% of the market from launch, which would be $6 million. Our competition currently all employ metal torsional springs, which cause artifact, and is dominated by only a few players in the game today. Included in our competition is a ceramic clip, which was developed in Canada, but required a metal spring to hold it together, hence causing artifact. A plastic ligation clip was invented in 1989, but never made it to market. People ask why, and I think the two reasons are this. It doesn't emulate the strength of the titanium clip. 1989 was a long time ago. Technology wasn't there yet. And you can't put the clip on an aneurysm, take it off, and put it back on, which is key for aneurysm clips today. Essentially, our value proposition is we have an aneurysm clip with the same size, the same strength, and less than 1/4 the cost of current titanium aneurysm clips. We've worked with FDA experts around the country. Aneurysm clips are an FDA Class II device. Our testing will include cycle testing and animal testing through a 510K pathway. The key is this. When the transition occurred from steel to titanium clips, the FDA required a 510K with animal testing. What helps us is that PEEK is already accepted and implanted in the brain. We know that the FDA is a more stringent and strict organization than it was 20 years ago, and this is why we've enlisted the help of multiple FDA experts early in our process. We've provisionally patented and protected our earlier designs. More applications will be patented as R&D ensues, but the professional patent opinion which we've contracted for is this. There's a good opportunity for claims in this dormant space. With initial funding, we can get a device that has proof of concept and equivalency testing in comparison to current titanium aneurysm clips. Milestones include pre-approval, 510K, market ramp-up, and US and European launches with potential exit strategies considered along the way. Our team includes medical device engineers who have innovated in multiple areas of healthcare, neurosurgeons who have innovated and sold to major neurosurgical companies already, well-known neurovascular neurosurgeons who have extensive experience in clip design, those with special training in conduct and design of clinical trials, and we've contracted for areas that we felt we had a hole with, legal and intellectual property, and we're working very intimately with a medical device marketing consultant to fill the holes for our business development, and we've been working with her extensively. Overall, this has been a fantastic process. I want to thank Duke Gen, Duke Neurosurgery, our friends and family, everyone who has helped, Craig, co-founder here, and just the judges as well. So we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Go ahead.
Thank you, Craniovation. Please stay on stage. We'll take a few questions from our panel of judges. Judges, take it away. Anyone have a question?
I have a question.
Yes. Sure.
So is your goal to make this sort of a $10, $15 million business if you get maybe 40, 50% of that market and make that your end game and be satisfied with that? Or are there any plans for expansion after that?
Yeah, so our ultimate goal is to eventually see this implanted and to actually make a difference. So people don't really go into medicine anymore for the money. We do this because we like doing this. But we're not naive. We know that we have to make a return on the investment for our investors. That's just as important. So as long as we can make a strong return on our investment and we can see this come to fruition, we'll consider those two factors. Those are our two keys. So as long as we have a proposition or an opportunity to make those two things happen, we'll consider it.
Can you elaborate a little bit more? Particularly, you did mention that you have some potential thoughts about other applications down the road.
Sure.
I think that's where we're going with our questioning.
Potential applications. So this comes back to our platform technology. So currently there are 30 million CT scans ordered yearly, and this is a body. Currently we're moving towards non-invasive diagnosis of testing. Currently one of the tests used is they use invasive testing to stick a needle and catheter through the leg to find out what's going with the aneurysm. It's replaced by something called CT angiography, or CTA, which is a non-invasive diagnosis. But with the needle, with the angiography, you don't have to worry as much about artifact. But with the CTA, you do. That's just in neurosurgery, not including the clips we use in different surgical subspecialties over the next 10 and 20 years. So to answer the question, that's an example of neurosurgery. But in 10 or 20 years, I don't even have the answer. But what I can tell you is that imaging is going to be the current industry standard.
I have two questions.
Sure.
One is, presumably your market size is based on the pricing for the current product.
Correct.
Could you charge more money because you have a better product?
Sure. We've considered a premium pricing model, which is what I think you're referring to, and we've considered that. But the thing is, our cost of goods is significantly less than the current aneurysms, titanium aneurysms, which are offered today. So we make more than 4 times on one aneurysm clip that the titanium aneurysm clip industry does already. So we've actually considered it, and actually one of the judges in this process, which the feedback's been great, had mentioned possibly going to a premium pricing model. But we decided, since we're getting over a 4x return on the cost of goods, it is something to consider. And we're not eliminating anything at this stage. So.
Well, I asked just because when you started your introduction, you said, well, it's a smallish market. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of money there to make for your investors, but if you could charge more, you might be able to do better. So my next question is, how do you get this to market, right? You've talked about the technology, the testing, the FDA, all that stuff. How are you going to sell it?
So, there's a current slide that we have. We look at our milestones, and what we do is we're focused on those. Our initial thought is to take this towards from bench testing to animal testing to human testing, outside U.S. testing to U.S. testing to market. That's through the FDA trial. During any point in that, we consider exit strategy. So we're not eliminating anything at this point. What we do know is we have a good patented technology that we know can help people, and we're kind of referring to the business experts to help give us potential buyout and kind of exit strategies in the future.
A quick question. I think you by focusing down, it's really a smart thing to do in this small market. But I think you do yourself a disservice in trying to start a business where you're going to raise investor money without painting the big picture of what the potential is, and then work down and say we get started by this. It gets us going. We can license it. We could sell off that first product and use it as just capital to grow the business. Because for an investor to get involved here, if you make a clinical mistake, you're going to have to double the money you need, and the whole return's gone. So I would start big and then tell us how you're going to get there, as opposed to starting small and hoping we can figure out how to get big later.
That's fair.
Brooks, you have a question?
What are some of the other companies in your space look like? How big are they? How are they structured? Like other medical device manufacturers that have just a single product?
So Sujita and Fujitsu, there's currently only 2 or 3 major players. But to give you an example, we've worked with the neurosurgery manufacturing or distributor, the person who works here. 99% of the clips are taken from only one of these major players here at Duke. This is what major medical centers also, this is kind of how they're structured. But the key is this, they don't focus on aneurysm clips. The thing is, the smallish market, which we discussed, isn't enough for one of these players. So they make things from everything from operating room tables to surgical aneurysm clips, and it's kind of a wide market. So just to answer, the structure is, this is just a small component of what one of these big companies do. And major medical centers usually contract out to one of these major players.
How would you get them to switch?
To titanium aneurysm clips?
To start using a small player when I'm sure they're all set up to work with big players.
So our hope is this: if we have a product that A is better and B is cheaper, we hope that speaks for itself.
Karen, you had a question?
Yes. Thanks for your information. Sure. So my question is on the strength. So you're using plastic as opposed to metal or titanium, and that's part of your kind of proof of concept with funding. So can you explain a little bit more how you're going to make sure that it has the strength that it needs, the clip to?
So I think a lot of A lot of our testing is based on what the FDA is going to ask, and there's no way to know until they actually ask it, but what it does is we can look at historically what they've asked and use that for testing. It answers 2 questions. It helps us do some strength testing, and also when we get to the FDA potential questions, it helps us answer some of those as well. So what we'll do is we want with the 60K to have proof of concept. So we'll test for things like creep, how many cycle testing with MTS machines, and we'll also go to animal testing. When we changed from steel to titanium, the FDA only required rabbit testing due to some characteristics of neurovascular structure of the rabbit. So we're going to initially start with rabbit testing as well. So to more specifically answer your question, we're going to go from bench testing, including cycle testing and creep testing, to animal testing in rabbits, and then hopefully in humans from there.
We have time for one last question.
Just want to go back to the pricing issue. Is this the kind of a device that is in fact price sensitive? I'm just wondering if I was a physician, if I'd be motivated by spending $500 or $375 to operate on somebody's brain.
I think it's driven by a couple of things. The first thing is price, and the second thing is if you're a neurovascular neurosurgeon like I work with here, and I put a surgical aneurysm clip in a patient, and I have the opportunity to not be able to diagnose the 40% of complications, so I have, or the opportunity to diagnose 100%. If something costs the same price, which we are, I would go the latter. So I think it's driven by the post-op as well.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Nanalie.
Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you to the Duke Startup Challenge, for all the judges and all the organizers. 26 million children are not immunized every year, and 2.1 million people die from vaccine-preventable diseases. Nanalie is developing a polymer to enable the cheap, effective, and safe delivery of vaccines to anywhere in the world without refrigeration. Tonight, I will show you why an investment in Nanalie is an investment in the welfare of people all around the world. Quickly, we'll go over the team, the problem, our solution, the market, and finally, our compelling financials. My name is Ting-Ting Zhou, and I'm studying political science and environmental sciences and policy. Nancy Liu is a student at UC Berkeley studying engineering and business, and Crystal Lee is a student at Stanford with a background in human biology. On our research side, we have 3 PhD research scientists. We are absolutely dedicated to the development of our product, which shows through our advisory team. We have Duke alumni, such as the founder of Mint.com, Aaron Patzer, and others who have seen a startup go from an idea to commercialization. So what's the problem? The vaccine cold chain right now requires that vaccines must be stored and transported between just a 10-degree range. And as you can see, there are many steps from when the vaccine is first manufactured to when it's delivered to a patient. And all throughout these steps, it must be kept at this optimal temperature range. When 86% of vaccines are sent to the developing world, this creates a huge problem. A lot of rural areas in the world just don't have access to these expensive refrigerators or the electricity. Our product, NanoShield, is a combination of a unique hydrogel and nanoparticles. Our hydrogel is a polyethylene glycol, otherwise known as PEG. It's commonly found in biomedical devices. It is actually peer-reviewed and has been proven. The process is fairly complicated, so I'll just give you some basics. So when NanoShield is combined with a vaccine, NanoShield will directly encapsulate the vaccine within its polymer, within the nanomatrix. This will make sure that the protein is suppressed and mechanically folded. Our hydrogel also has light-sensitive and thermostabilizing crosslinkers. We're using light-sensitive crosslinkers in our hydrogel in order so that if you use a certain wavelength on these nanomatrix, it can directly release the protein from the polymer when it's ready to be injected into a patient. We're also using nanoparticles because it will eliminate water. Water is very damaging to vaccines and increase their likelihood of vaccine spoilage. We've envisioned a way that a customer might use our product. Dr. Jane has to take a 2-day hiking trip to a rural village in Chad to deliver 30 tetanus vaccines. Before her journey, she sits down in her lab and she inserts the tetanus vaccine directly into vials pre-filled with liquid NanoShield. She then places these vaccines into her backpack and starts her hike. When she gets to the clinic 2 days later, she's able to turn on the battery-operated NanoShield UV light and shine it directly onto the syringe. This activates the vaccine, and then she can directly administer it to a patient. When she returns to the clinic, Dr. Jane is able to place these unused vaccines back into a refrigerator for future use. Immediately, you can see that there's no vaccine wastage. This is a very portable option for Dr. Jane. No ice packs or refrigeration was needed. In the long term, companies will want this product. It significantly lowers their costs. It is an effective way to increase immunization access to remote areas of the world, and is safe because it reduces vaccine spoilage. Our primary customers include UNICEF and the World Health Organization. However, most of our revenue will actually be coming from our secondary customers, such as pharmaceutical companies and medical suppliers. GlaxoSmithKline, the world's third largest pharmaceutical company and a major vaccine distributor, has already shown interest in NanoShield. Their research scientists have actually called it highly innovative. The vaccine industry and our market opportunity is incredibly robust. The vaccine industry continues to grow every year, and revenues are steadily rising. It actually experienced 11.5% compound annual growth rate. Finally, UNICEF estimates that 90% of their vaccine costs actually go towards transportation and delivery. What this means is that we could potentially save up to 90% of those costs. Our pilot vaccine will be diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis vaccine. The Center for Disease Control estimates that their cost per dosage is $13.75. If you multiply that by the number of non-immunized children, and then by their overhead delivery costs, you get $572 million that's required. NanoShield, at just a very conservative estimate, we believe that we can reduce just 60% of these costs, and it would save $343 million. There are competitors out there, and a lot of our competitors include various methods of refrigeration. However, this is still expensive and a non-portable option. Our more direct competitors are also relatively new processes, and what they've done still is part of the cold chain process. They don't break out of the mold like we do. We estimate that $1.5 million will get us from research to commercialization. This is an ambitiously low number because we believe that our product qualifies for funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and research funding from the US Department of Defense. We predict that in our first 2 years, we won't be making revenue because we'll be getting through FDA approval and testing our product in order to make sure that we can market and sell it. We do have challenges to overcome. However, we started talking to lawyers, and we have a meeting with an FDA representative in May. We've also already started talking to PATH. They're a global health NGO working to see if innovations can help global health. We believe that if our support from PATH is secured, then we can then partner with the World Health Organization and UNICEF. The Duke Star Challenges Award of $50,000 will make a remarkable impact on Nanalie's development. Our team is meticulous and diligent, and we will ensure that every single penny goes towards solving Nanalie's goal of increasing immunizations access in the world. Nanalie is a true game changer. We have a committed and passionate team, we have powerful fundamental technology, and we already have demonstrated customer interest. We want to change the world. We want to improve the lives of people all around the world. Now the question is, will you be a part of our global change? Thank you.
Thank you, Nanalie. Now, judges, please, any questions?
Well, why has no one else tried this before?
Right, so what we've created in the lab is this photodegradable polyethylene glycol. This is very, very new. We are the only one with this patent. I don't know, this lab is just amazing enough to figure it out.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges you face in customizing your product for individual vaccines?
Definitely. So that's definitely something that NanoShield has to be aware of. Because when it's mixed with the vaccine, it has to encapsulate it in its polymer, and every single vaccine protein size is a little bit different, so we will have to customize it. So our pilot vaccine is tetanus because it's one that's readily available, very popular. Obviously, we need to get more funding to make sure that we can also customize it to other vaccines.
Reed, you had a question?
Well, you're back on that trying this stuff. So you said when you were introducing the PEG was peer-reviewed and tested, but now you just said no one else has it. Can you explain, like, what was the difference between then and now?
Okay, so we have a patented photodegradable hydrogel-based polymer.
Okay.
Our actual product will actually look kind of different. We're adding thermal stabilizing cross-linkers to it, and that will form the entire nano shield.
So which is peer-reviewed and tested?
The base hydrogel, the photodegradable base polymer.
And have they used it for vaccine stabilization?
No. Well, we have encapsulated BSA and RNA particles with this hydrogel.
So, Ting Ting, so for when you say it's patented, has a patent been issued on that?
Yes.
Okay.
On the base hydrogel.
On the base, and
yes.
so the other provisionals on the...
Yes, the provisional patent that we've started to file is on the entire nano shield product.
And so my other question is the funding amount seems low, 1.5 million, and then after that you followed it by saying you're planning to get money from the Gates Foundation. Is that on top of the 1.5 million that you're saying that you need?
Right, so the 1.5 million is low. You know, the grant will actually be part of the 1.5 million. The 1.5 million is actually what we want to, with the pace of our company. We are thinking about exiting the market, which means that we would partner with pharmaceutical companies who can help us get through the FDA process.
Yeah,
Got a question about the team. So, who is the CEO of the company, and how did the team connect? And are any of the members of the team the actual inventors of the original patent?
Okay, so me and Nancy Liu, the student at UC Berkeley, we're co-founders. So I guess we're the CEOs of the company. To answer your other question about the research, so our 3 PhD research scientists, one is working on it in his lab, and so he was the one who looked at this hydrogel. That was already in his lab, and so he's working on it to improve it.
Rich, you talk a little bit about the market opportunity. Clearly, it's been a huge market with huge compound annual growth rate from 2000 to now. Looks like the growth rate's slowing down a little bit, and I'd like to hear a little bit about the competitors. And it looks like you guys are provided on a per dosage basis versus some of these companies may have already spent the capital and bought some of these containers and refrigeration containers and things like that. How big a hurdle is that to get them to switch over to something they've got such huge embedded costs in and now go on a per dosage basis?
Right. So definitely a question about volume, I think.
What's that?
Are you asking kind of about volume and kind of how
I'm
they
asking a
switch
little bit about the
technology?
competitive dynamics. How entrenched are some of these guys?
Okay.
Clearly, they've got to experience tremendous upside in the sector. Are these firmly entrenched competitors, and do they have strong distribution channels? Are they already embedded in some of these companies? And is it going to be a sales hurdle to go to some of these companies that have already invested maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars or $1 million in some of these portable storage containers and move them over to your model, which is on a per dosage basis?
So one of the things I want to say is that they're not portable. Refrigerators, even the solar power ones and the gas power ones, have many, many obstacles with them. And I think that, you know, because this product hasn't been brought to market yet, because pharmaceutical companies don't know about it, I think they would gladly switch. You know, delivery and transportation costs, like I said, are 90% of vaccine costs. That is ridiculous. And I think, you know, if they can get rid of all those refrigerators, they would definitely do it.
So who's your role model out there? Who's your vaccine company that was financed for less than $10 million that's been a big success?
What do you mean, sorry? Like,
Who is your role model company out there that sells vaccines, was venture financed, selling outside the US, and is a very successful company today? What's the name of a couple of them?
Okay, well, so to just clarify, we're not a vaccine manufacturer. We're only creating the shield. So we kind of have a unique niche in the market.
But you do the packaging of the vaccine?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're the drug, okay, so a drug delivery company. Who's your role model as a drug delivery company you'd like to emulate?
Right now we're working with GlaxoSmithKline, so definitely them.
And Brooks, you have a question? We'll finish with you.
So you're a junior?
Yes.
So if you don't win tonight, and then you don't, actually both ways, if you do win and you now have cash and you're able to raise the funds, how will you manage this with your school, being a student. And then the other direction, if you don't win and you just graduate, then you have a hard time getting financing, what would be your next steps?
Okay, so next steps. All of our teammates, all of us are completely committed to this idea. Whether we win or not tonight, we're going to make this a lifelong goal of increasing immunizations access to the developing world. We believe in this technology, and we believe that it's so powerful and so innovative that we are fully 100% behind it. The best thing would be to get financing, so then we are able to immediately start working on it. The thing with financing, with the $1.5 million, I was talking about pace. So the sooner we get the money, the quicker we can move this through FDA approval, and the quicker we can get partnerships.
Great. Thank you. That's all the time we have for questions. Thank you, Nanalie.
Next up, we have Zam Solar.
Hey, guys. Just 1 second. We're gonna have to.
Hey guys, I'm honored to be in front of you today. I'd like to introduce you to someone. This is Natalia Mbewe. She lives in Zambia. She lives on the Zambezi River, actually, with her and her family. They make a living fishing, growing vegetables, and with her husband's $10 cash income as a boatman. They don't have electricity, so for light at night, she's got to walk 2 hours into town where she buys 16-cent candles and dollar batteries. She also has to pay someone to charge her cell phone for her, which is 40 cents a charge. So these expenses add up. In fact, they add up to over a third of her weekly budget every week. And it's a problem that faces 1 in 5 people in the world. In fact, 1 in 5 people who don't have electricity. It's called energy poverty. Tragically, the people who are the poorest in the world, who lack electricity, pay the most for light and power. To get a sense for this, if the average American household tried to power its monthly energy consumption with the same D-cell batteries that Natalia buys for $1 a pop, it would cost over $30,000 a month. The tragedy is, we have the technology to solve this problem. It's just not in your market. So imagine if we could replace candles, kerosene, batteries, charging stations with open flames and batteries. Or excuse me, with solar-powered lights, as pictured here. The value proposition of this idea is tremendous. Replace dangerous, unhealthy, and environmentally hazardous with clean, safe, and affordable. Affordable is the most important point. This is Natalia's budget before she buys a $30 solar portable light that, let's just say, she could pay for over the course of a year. She's spending over a third of her budget on light and power. Now she's spending 57 cents on light and power, and she's got 30% in savings. In addition to that, she'll have bright light all night, convenient everyday charging, and a revenue opportunity because she can sell those charges to her friends. Seems like a pretty great idea, right? Well, this guy Jacob thought so. He's a merchant in the town where she buys her goods. And when he saw these lights, which by the way he'd never seen before, he was shocked. He grabbed me and he said, I'm going to sell these everywhere in Luangwa. In fact, I'm going to bring them also across the river to Mozambique. In fact, he was so savvy, he said to me, well, you're going to have to give me an exclusive. So he was disappointed because we had to tell him that we were going to come back for 6 months. And he was right to be disappointed. Because in Zambia, $270 million each year are spent on light and power. In Africa, off the grid. In Africa, it's $18 billion a year. And globally, it's a $46 billion market. These devices, these products have a tremendous potential to be disruptive in these markets, but they can't be found. Now, my partner encountered this problem last summer when he was working for an NGO, traveling across Zambia, giving away solar-powered lights to teachers. Everywhere he went, no one had seen the products before, but they were really, really impressed by them and said, please sell them to us. Of course, he couldn't because that wasn't the purpose of the NGO, and because they were buying them at really expensive rates because they were air freighting them in. And so he collected all these hypothetical orders, and he wrote me an email and said, man, if I were in business today, I would have sold 4,500 solar portable lights to these people, and their lives would have been dramatically improved. The problem is the NGO model doesn't work. They can't satisfy the market demand. They don't have sufficient capital, they operate at low volumes, they have high operating costs, and they have the wrong incentives. Local distributors, on the other hand, who recognize the value potential, don't have access to capital, they don't have connections for institutional partnerships, they don't have the credibility required by international suppliers, and they don't have access to cutting-edge technologies. So this is why the market for these products still remains below 1% market penetration. What the market needs is a reliable, innovative, and well-capitalized distributor on the ground. And that's what Zam Solar will be. In this summer, my partner and I, my partner is a senior EL, will graduate from school and we'll move to Zambia. We'll start Zam Solar, which put simply, will import and distribute household solar products to the off-grid poor. But our ultimate aim is to develop scalable distribution, marketing, and financing strategies to bring household solar to East Africa and the greater continent. We'll leverage access to capital, innovative partnerships, and the cutting-edge financing technology that's being developed right now. We believe that by building local distribution networks, a local brand, we can help forge a scalable, sustainable, and profitable solution to energy poverty. Let's talk quickly about the business plan. There are 3 phases. In the first phase, we'll focus on low-hanging fruit. These are sales to folks who can afford to purchase these products outright, which aren't all that many. And also folks who are not expensive to reach. We'll also focus on businesses and organizations. One such organization is the Center for Infectious Disease Research that reaches over 1 million women with their 330 clinics. And they've suggested the idea of partnership where their clinic workers can sell our products. Another partnership we have on the docks is with Airtel, which is the largest telecom in the country. They have over 4 million subscriptions, which constitutes almost 1/3 of the Zambian population. And they recognize that some of our products are complementary to their business and want to run a pilot. But now, so in the first year, we believe that there's a potential to sell 70,000 units. But we only need to sell 30,000 to break even. Ultimately, however, the goal of the first year is not just to run a viable business, but to build the relationships necessary to extend our own network off the grid, because that's really what we're about, reaching the poorest people. We'll pilot and perfect rent-to-own technology, and we'll gain name recognition. In the next stage of the business, we'll move towards rent-to-own technology products. These technologies provide customers with financing options to lower the upfront cost. This is really important to our business because it means we can reach many, many more customers. Most Zambians cannot afford a $30 solar portable light. What we do know is that most probably can afford a $5, $10, or $15 upfront cost. Because in a country with a population of 13 million people, there are 6 million Zambians with cell phones. And they bought those cell phones at $10, $15, or $20 a pop. So we're sure that they can afford that. The next great thing about rent-to-own is that it makes off-grid distribution more cost-effective. You can't travel 10 hours to a village and know that you're only going to be able to sell products to 5% of the village. You have to know that you can sell products to, say, 60% of the village or 70% of the village. And that's what rent-to-own makes possible. Third, rent-to-own will allow us to lock in our customers and secure our value, defend our position as a business in this market. And last, and most importantly of all, it'll help to serve our social mission of reaching the poorest Zambians. Now, eventually, in order to run rent-to-own technology, it's important to have really good partners. We've got to have the right technology. We're working with Angaza Design, a company in San Francisco, to bring in market products that will shut off in the case of non-payment, and with which mobile money payments are possible, so you can send money via text message. We'll also partner with Barclays, which is a company that's looking to expand their mobile money program in Zambia, but need a tangible incentive to get people to subscribe. And finally, we'll work with microfinance institutions like the Center for Energy, Environment, and Engineering in Zambia to provide our agents with financing to take some of the liability off our books. Eventually, however, we'll move from small rent-to-own products to larger pay-as-you-go home systems. This is about moving up the value scale for our customers. Pay-as-you-go means paying for electricity rather than paying for the power plant. Just the way we in the United States pay for the electricity as a service instead of buying the coal power plant that's keeping our lights on. This is important because it means that we can lower upfront costs and weekly rates, reaching even deeper into market penetration. It means that we can offer better hardware and regular upgrades. It means that we can offer improved services and better maintenance. And it means that by keeping these assets on our balance sheet, we have something to borrow against. Finally, and probably most important of all, it further secures our position in the market by locking customers into our services. So before I run out of time, I'd like to talk about a couple milestones in our business. In December 2011, we returned to Zambia and borrowed a little bit of money to do that. We were able to reserve the name Zam Solar with the Zambian Revenue Authority and met with the Zambian Development Agency. We also put together our board of advisors, including Paul Kaluba, country manager at Coca-Cola, finance director at Bank of Zambia, director at Coca-Cola Mines, country director of Africare in Zambia, and a lecturer at the University of Zambia. My partner received the Charles P. Howland Fellowship from Yale for $30,000 to cover some of his personal expenses. We incorporated as Solar in Delaware as a holding company. And finally, we've received a personal commitment from the chairman of the U.S. African.
I'm sorry, that's all the time we have.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Judges, take it away.
I had a question about the product itself.
Yeah.
How are you planning on differentiating it or developing some IP so that it's different from all the potential knockoffs? And then following that up, why wouldn't Airtel just buy these products themselves, factory direct, and use them as part of their own plan?
Right. Okay. So for the first question is, how do we differentiate our products from the products currently in the market? Well, most of the products that we're going to bring in aren't in the market. That's important. Now, that doesn't mean that differentiation isn't important. There's a lot of market spoilage out there, which means that they're cheap products that give a bad reputation to small solar lights. One of our ideas is to write designed in America in the back. But really, ultimately, our business model is going to be in rent-to-own and pay-as-you-go servicing, which will be much more about the service itself. It'll be about being able to go to an agent, buy the unit at a small upfront cost, get the battery replaced after 3 years, serve it, financing every week, that sort of thing, as opposed to, look, we're not going to try to beat traders at their own game. We're not going to try to race to the bottom when it comes to price. We wouldn't survive that way. We're going to our goal is to lock people in with financing mechanisms that traders aren't interested in copying. The Airtel question, why aren't they? Well, look, in the first year when we have these things on, when we have our own inventory, they won't be able to get a better price than us because we'll get an exclusive from our manufacturer, who, by the way, has only ever sold 5,000 of these things. So it's not a hard thing to get from them, because we're talking about many thousands. But in the long run, you're right. If this were really great business for Airtel, they would be in it. Now, of course, Airtel is not a hardware company. They sell talk time, which are little scratch cards that people buy so they can top up their cell phones. So it's kind of, in our opinion, unlikely that they would move into this kind of business. That's not to say that there aren't MNOs out there that have, and it's an important thing to keep looking for, particularly with rent-to-own and pay-as-you-go systems. But we're going to move past the selling things outright right after the first year, because that's not a sustainable business for us.
Tom?
I have a question for you. First, I want to just say, you guys have real hard to try to go do this. This is a real challenge, and clearly the need's there. But if we look at the three companies we've seen tonight, the first two, the product is actually very simple, what they do. They build it, once they build it, it works. And what you guys are trying to do there is effectively recreate AT&T or Verizon in another country, because you have to provide all the services, all the relationships, all the money management. So this is the toughest business we've seen to execute tonight.
Yeah.
And it's got great potential, but I just wonder, what do you guys do to be successful? Because AT&T doesn't do it so well in America. So I mean, how do you get around that challenge of just the breadth, the number of relationships, the number of people? How do you do that?
I think my partner and I have a limited lifespan as managers in this company, particularly being in Africa, where I think being white and without having a very narrow set of skills means that we aren't necessarily the best managers. So it means that we have to bring on the right people, and we're going to lean on our board of advisors to recruit local talent to run our company for us. The other thing I'll say is that when you have the value proposition that we're talking about with our products, I think there's a big margin of error. I think there's a lot we can do wrong and still help a lot of people and make a lot of money.
Right?
How much money are we going to make? I don't recall seeing that.
Okay, so we're trying to raise $200,000 in the seed series round. By seed A, we're talking about raising $2 to $5 million, and seed B, hypothetically, if we got there, $30 million. So you can sort of say we were selling 20% of the company in each round. You can sort of extrapolate what the valuation would be. Beyond that, I don't know if I have much of an answer for you.
That's a good answer.
Thank you.
Brooks, you had a question? No? Okay, you show him the microphone.
Question. So you've got an interesting social element, and there's also profitability. I think as a potential investor, what I would want to know is, which is the more dominant, the social good or the return that I'm going to get on my investment?
Well, so of course, I'm going to try to defer the question and tell you that they're one and the same. That's a really hard question to answer. The way we look at it, it's not so much about making money as it is about creating wealth. So, and I guess that's where I see them as being one and the same. But, I mean, we are a for-profit business. We believe in good capitalism. So I guess I'll go with, if I have to pick one, making money. Is that the right answer?
As investors, right, we want to get our money out. We're going to give it to you. We want it back, multiplied.
Oh, so how are you going to exit? Sorry. Oh, like what the multiplier is?
I'm not sure that was what Jeff's question was. But
I mean, the question was just, part of what we're asked to do here is look from the standpoint of an investor. And so a question I would have with the social entrepreneurship kind of venture like yours as an investor is, you know, am I donating money to help a good cause, or am I doing an investment? And what's the motivation of the founders of the company? Is it more around doing good?
No, like I said, we intend to run a profitable business and make our investors money.
they're going to turn it over to the local entrepreneurs and then come back and play golf.
I have a question along the lines of marketing, because as I hear what you're saying, you're going to build a team of people on the ground. So you're going to be in the people management business, basically. What kind of experience do you have in terms of training and development and management of what is going to be potentially a fairly large organization on the ground?
So here's one answer for you. My partner and I met each other in high school. And I was a writer on the newspaper, and he was just some kind of new junior that no one really knew. And he came down to the newsroom and said, hey, I want to be a copy editor, which is sort of like saying I want to do the absolute worst grunt work in the world. And so everyone's like, well, I guess you can. We don't even have one. No one would be willing to do that. So yeah, sure you can. When the board turned over that January, I ended up being appointed editor-in-chief of the newspaper. It was a big paper. We had a staff of 40 and writers, maybe 20 or 30 or something like that. And he somehow showed up right at the top of the masthead as executive editor. So we spent the next year trying to rebuild the magazine, the newspaper, which was having a lot of problems. It was $20,000 in debt. We had a lot of problems with the administration. And that's kind of how our partnership was formed in the first place, was managing that team and learning how to work with each other. We used to have a sort of bad cop, good cop routine going on for a while. But anyway, long story short.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for questions.
Once again, please join me in thanking all of the finalist teams that are giving us business tonight. So I'm asking them to be on the stage with me here now, and I told Rich that my wife tells me I look like Ryan Seacrest. No, she doesn't. But also, I'll put my words to the test here. So we're going to do a little bit of a feedback comment session with the judges and you guys out here, okay? And you guys can start whenever you want to tell us some general feedback that you have for our competitors today. Reed?
Yeah, I would echo what was said at the end here, which is that if you want to talk investors into investing, you want to sell a product that you can make money, and that starts with having a customer base that has money to spend. So 2 of the 3 businesses, while they're incredibly well researched and well presented, sell to customers that don't have anywhere near the kind of money that customers do in other markets. So that's something you should think about and where you choose to focus your business.
I just want to say it's really amazing what you are. I mean, you guys are just really amazing.
Yeah, I'll definitely echo what Brooke said. Rich was commenting to me earlier that he doesn't know what he was doing at age 22 or 23, but it was nowhere near the kind of quality business plans you guys have put together. And so I'm really excited as a Duke alum to see this Duke Startup Challenge evolve over time, and I think it just keeps getting better and better. So, so I think that's great. You know, I think that kind of to echo Reed's point, I think that the focusing a little bit more, a little less on the idea and a little bit more on the execution and how you can get to profitability and the go-to market strategy. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and the biggest place where I see ideas fail is in the go-to market strategy, which is basically how do you connect the idea to getting someone willing to pay for it at a customer acquisition cost that makes sense based on the cost of what it is you're selling. That's the trickiest part that I see in getting a business to work, and I think that's the biggest thing for you guys to really think about and focus on.
Rich, how did you think our teams handled the Q&A? How did you think they handled the Q&A sessions?
As I said in my speech, I'm just so ultra impressed. And Jess, I can tell you what I was doing at 22. I was drinking beer like all these kids out in the crowd are doing. That's an easy answer for me. But no, I've been ultra impressed. You know, clearly two of these obviously have patent type of protection. You know, I worry a little bit about the market size. Clearly that's an issue. You know, from an investor perspective, it's not as attractive to me just because of the limited dollars that I can kind of get to put to work. I would be looking to put, and I think a lot of people could say, you know, they're looking to put a little bit more dollars to work, and it's a little too risky for just putting a small amount of sum out there to work. I love the hustle. I love the social piece. I love the for-profit piece, and I think you're going to find your way no matter what happens. So, you know, they're ultra impressed.
Terrific work. I think to be specific on some suggestions, as an investor, I'm using Craniovation as my example here, I think the market size is a bit of a concern, but another concern is that you run out of money before you get far enough done. And being ready to sell out in any given stage and an exit, I find to be a relatively not a good strategy, because you're not putting yourself in to be successful regarding how you're ending up. So during the course of your effort, I would think through a go-to-market strategy, as Jesse said, make sure that you had some customer cash, which is the cheapest cash you're ever going to get, just to make sure you can keep going to the right level. With respect to Nanalie, just a terrific piece of work, and I think relative to the fundraising where you're at this particular stage, you ought to focus on accomplishing, proving out your mission before you start talking about saving $363 million. You know, it's a very valuable technology after you prove it, but until you prove it, it's not. In Zam Solar, putting together a distribution business in East Africa is a phenomenally Herculean task. I mean, I think boiling the ocean would be easier. You've got a great task and a great mission. I wish you a lot of luck, but I don't think you ought to pitch it as something that's going to make a lot of money.
Thank you. Karen, are there any surprises for you here tonight?
No surprises. I think the one thing that's consistent, and after doing several businesses, I think what stands out the most is most presentations are undercapitalized in terms of what you need to be successful. And so it sounds like each of you, no matter what happens tonight, you're going to go out and do your thing, right? So know that your expenses will be a lot more and your revenue is going to be less and slower than you think. But I really appreciate it. Your last presentation, you did a really good job presenting. A little long, so you have to work on that. But it held our attention. So thank you very much.
Mike, want to spill some beans? Any favorites? Are you going to tell us your vote?
I'm not going to tell you my vote.
Keeping it to the heart still?
But I want to echo everybody in commending all three of you. I think for me, the thing as an investor that really, the main issue that's really across all three of you, again, is market. And whether it's the size, whether it's how are you going to get to it, execution on it, That's the main thing that I don't feel as though, as an investor, I've been sold on it. I don't know whether it's a question of more market research, or maybe looking at different options, looking at different, you look at a distribution company, instead of trying to get one product out to everybody, you might look at looking at a smaller market and getting several different products out there. What else is there that your market might need? Might be an easier way of going about it than trying to build an AT&T or just a vast distribution network. So I'd say on the market side, in general, sell me on how you're gonna really get to it. The ideas are great, but I haven't been sold on how you're going to get there, and I haven't really been sold on how you're going to make money for me. Right? As an investor, I love something that's heavily socially oriented, that's good for the world. But I've got limited partners. I've got people that I've promised, I'm going to make you a whole lot of money, and I need a little bit of, hey, save the world with me, and by the way, I'm going to get you a 5-6 time return or more, right?
Thanks, Mike.
I have a question for all three of you. And you can just tell me yes or no. If you were approached by a major foundation that says, we'll give you $50 million if you'll agree to become a nonprofit and never take more than $200,000 a year out of the business, would you pursue the business plan under those terms?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, judges, for your feedback and comments. It's valuable for them for sure. And thank you to our competitors. Judges, it's now time for you to vote.
All right.
Let's see those votes. And audience, it's time for you guys to vote as well. Remember,
let's just do it. Forget
the judges' vote counts for 80% of the total, and your vote counts for the 20%. So here's how we're going to do it. You're going to vote with your cell phones. Can we turn off the lights? We're going to vote with your cell phones, and we're going to, in a moment, we're going to show you 3 codes that correspond to the 3 teams that pitched tonight. And you're going to text their code to the number 37607. So for example, if I was voting for Team Red, I would send the number 72612 to the code 37607. So please remember, you have to be in the room to vote. At the end, when the polls close, we're going to do a physical hand count to verify that the votes are real. So if that's clear, pull out your cell phones. We're about to show you the codes. Ready? The polls are open now. Here are the codes. Sending text to your friends with the instructions, that's really not going to help the winning team. So we're going to do a physical hand count at the end. You have to be here to vote. An event like this doesn't come together on its own magically, and there are some people we'd like to recognize for being influential in making this happen. The first one is the student organizing team. You've probably seen all of the students running around today putting time and effort in trying to put this event together. I'd like to ask that all the student organizing team can stand up, and I'd like the audience to give a big round of applause.
We'd also like a special shout out to Howie Reed, our advisor. Howie really is the glue that holds Startup Challenge together year after year. It's really his inexhaustible energy that puts this event together and really makes it the degree of showmanship it actually is. So thank you, Howie. We'd also like to thank our sponsors and donors tonight, whose generous financial support really helps to encourage entrepreneurship right here at Duke.
I would like to especially thank two of our donors, Melissa Bernstein and Rich Lee, whose donations have made many of our track prizes and tonight's grand prize possible. So please join me in thanking all of our sponsors and our donors.
Don't forget, this could be you up here next year. So please, go to our website, join our mailing list, in order to stay up to date on competitions, deadlines, and to join our organizing committee.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have in my hand an envelope containing the name of the winner of the 13th annual Duke Startup Challenge and the winner of the $50,000 grand prize. I'd like to call the three presenters back down to the stage. I'd like to congratulate them for making it so far and doing a great job here tonight. And we also want to thank you guys. Thank you guys for being here and supporting us and being loud, and please continue to support us next year. And now, without further ado, Rich, I'd like to ask you the honor to announce the winner.
It is an honor. Drum roll, please. Tonight's winner, Nanalie.
Thank you everyone for being here and sharing this up night with us.
Produced by Duke University, online at duke.edu.